Thanks to you for tuning in. Tonight's lead, the GOP jumps the shark. Republicans are foaming at the mouth over the IRS controversy, despite the fact the president is taking action. He's taking action to get to the bottom of it. Facts don't matter, though, to today's GOP. The most extreme far-right voices in the party are leading the charge, starting with Michelle Bachmann.
Earlier this week, we've heard the word impeachment tossed around up here on Capitol Hill. Is that something that should be considered?
I will tell you, as I have been home in my district, in the 6th District of Minnesota, there isn't a weekend that hasn't gone by that someone says to me, Michelle, what in the world are you all waiting for in Congress? Why aren't you impeaching the president? He's been making unconstitutional actions since he came into office.
Impeach him? Is she serious? I mean, the Tea Party fringe has taken over the GOP and is blaming the president for every single controversy in Washington.
The unifying themes in those patterns are, number one, an arrogance and view of government, and number two, a really dismaying willingness to mislead and to deceive the American people.
There's something profoundly un-American about targeting your political opponents.
If the AP story has taught anything, it should be to the media that when there is a tyrannical despot, the media will be one of the early victims.
Our president, a tyrannical despot? Now, this type of talk is ugly, but is not confined to the Tea Party wing of the party. Look who was there today, right next to Michelle Bachmann, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And today, Speaker Boehner was repeating the line about the president's so-called arrogance.
Nothing dissolves the bonds between the people and their government like the arrogance of power here in Washington. And that's what the American people are seeing today from the Obama administration. Remarkable arrogance.
Joining me now, Richard Wolff and Crystal Ball. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us, Reverend.
Crystal, let me start with you. Has the GOP gone off the deep end here?
Well, I think that they have never quite understood from the election and before the election up till now that the American people do not feel the way about the president that they do. They have all this hatred and animus towards him, and they always assume the worst of him. So anything that they can see and find that ties into their caricature of him, they grab onto, and they assume that the broader American public is going to make the same connection. They don't. They don't see him that way. They like him. They generally trust him. They think that he is doing the best that he can. So when they make these bizarre assertions that in a lot of ways don't even contradict themselves, they are really undermining their own point and really jumping the shark, as you put it.
But it's almost like they ignored the election because they have the same narrow Tea Party group, no broad appeal, saying the same venomous things against the president that you would think they would see from the returns last year that just does not work with a broad base of Americans, Richard.
You know, I think the only thing that performance works for is auditioning for The Daily Show. You know, all they needed were the pitchforks and a couple of bonfires. I mean, what are they thinking? If they want to buck the trend of history and give the president some seats in a midterm, they should do what Republicans did in 1996. Because, in 1988, excuse me, because, try and impeach a president, you can actually help his party gain seats. It doesn't work, didn't work then. And this kind of, look, let's face it, they're saying he's arrogant. Right. What are they talking about? He's just got reelected as president. He's the commander-in-chief. They're saying he's got an attitude? Right. Is that what they're actually saying here?
He's uppity. But let me go back to you for a minute, Crystal. The right-wing Heritage Action Group is explicitly, this is serious to me, explicitly telling Republicans to focus on scandal and not even try to pass laws.
And
now, their letter, let me read it to you.
Yeah.
It says, a part of it anyway, it says, we urge you to avoid bringing any legislation to the House floor that could expose or highlight major schisms within the conference. Rather than scheduling such legislation for consideration, we urge you to keep the attention focused squarely on the Obama administration. So that means let's forget jobs. Let's not deal with the sequester. Let's not deal with immigration. Let's keep the focus on these scandals, none of whom have in any way, shape, or form had a direct accusation of the president or anyone in the White House, for that matter. Serious scandals, but not at the level of the Obama administration.
And I think when you mention immigration, that's the big one. When they're referring to things that create a schism within the conference, you know, that is the one that was creating this schism before we started talking about all these different issues. And Heritage has been deeply opposed to any sort of comprehensive reform package that would include bringing the millions of existing undocumented workers out of the shadows. And that's the thing that is really sad here. I mean, there's a lot actually that's sad here, but one of the things is that in their attempt to smear the president in any way they can, they're shredding any little bit of goodwill that had been built up that was leading towards progress on these bills. Yeah. How can you go back to a conservative district and sell your constituents on a bipartisan immigration plan when, with the other hand, you're trying to convince them that the president is a tyrannical despot? So it doesn't work.
Tyrannical despot.
But when people suffer, I mean, my concern is that people are suffering. When you look at Michelle Bachmann, Rand Paul today, they use the IRS controversy to attack the health care law. Listen to this.
Your medical records now will be evaluated by the IRS that seems to have the ability and seems to have the penchant to use political persuasion and to search out political opponents.
Could there potentially be political implications regarding health care, access to health care, denial of health care? Will that happen based upon a person's political beliefs or their religiously held beliefs?
I mean, first it was the death panels pulling the plug on grandma. Now it's IRS agents saying you can't get a flu shot. I mean, what are they talking about, Richard?
So I'm a new American, and to get my citizenship, I had to actually, you know, you get these questions about the Constitution. I hear Michelle Bachmann saying, what's constitutional? Last time I checked, it's the Supreme Court that decides what's constitutional or not. They looked at the health care law and they said, gee, it's constitutional. So this argument doesn't work. They're not even they can't even make a statement. Even Michelle Bachmann has to phrase it as a question. Could it be? Will they do that? They don't even have the guts to go out and say this will happen because they know it's not true. The White House didn't tell the IRS to do anything because it's illegal, because those channels do not exist. They know the IRS isn't going to use health care law for this because it does not happen, it will not happen. So they have to put these things out there and hope someone just reads the signs and sees the smoke and puts it all together in their conspiracy-filled world. They're fueling conspiracies and they know it. That's why they're asking these questions.
But again, and I'm going to keep saying it every night, the commissioner in charge of the IRS when this happened was a Bush-appointed Republican. Right. If they want to ask somebody how it happened, ask him.
Right. Or they could ask the other guy who got fired.
Though. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. They were like the Oval Office. Somebody sat in the Oval Office and called down to some mid-level IRS agents and said, I want you to do this. I mean, this is absurd on its face. But a New York Times piece today it said that, well, it really gave insight into what the president is thinking about all the GOP opposition. Let me give you this. It says he told donors this week, my thinking was after we beat them in 2012, well, that might break the fever. And it's not quite broken yet. He also said, I sure want to do some governing. I want to get some stuff done. I don't have a lot of time. So it's frustrating. And it's costing the American people, Crystal.
That's exactly right. And this president has gone back and back to the Republicans in good faith. I mean, some of his critics on the left have said he's trusted them too much. He's tried too hard to work with them. And they just cannot get past their hatred of them because ultimately they have no solutions to offer. So the only thing that they can fall back on that holds their caucus together is their animus towards this president.
Well, I mean, it does, Richard, seem like there's no way to work with these people. And I've been one that have wanted to see the president more aggressive. I said give him time, try it his way. Mm-hmm. But compromise with them is slim to none, and Slim is out of town.